Harry Kane is the obvious choice, and I can give you a million reasons why.
Go on.
For one, he's Premier League proven. That is a massive factor. We've seen players come from the Serie A to the Premier League and not bang. Happens more often than you think in the defensive league that it is. We've also seen this happen before. Robin van Persie. A player that's banged in the Premier League before and has been at that level. And to be fair, Harry Kane has arguably been at a higher level than Robin van Persie was during the whole of his Premier League career. Maybe not in winning things, but in terms of goals to game ratio.
In terms of winning things pretty similar.
Yeah. When it comes to goals to game ratio and his actual general production, not many in Premier League history has come close. Actually, even less than not many. Alan Shearer alone. Because he's going to surpass. He's Wayne Rooney, so just going to get that out of the way. And it's also...
He hasn't yet, but...
Yeah, but he will.
Train's in the station.
He will. The train's in the station. And I personally believe it's not all just about him being a bona fide goal scorer, and he's literally the most low-risk signing, apart from his injury issues, that I know you'll come back on. I think it's what he'll bring for the rest of our players. I think he also will continue this kind of elevation that we're seeing from Marcus Rashford. We've seen the player that Kane has helped Son become. You can't say that hasn't been an effect or been a slight factor with their kind of the tandem that they have. I think his ability to drop in
agree.
deep.
I think actually
back to goal. Yeah,
I agree. Son is far more similar to Rashford than most players out there, in all honesty, the way he plays. And I think that you can extrapolate how Kane links with Son, how effective he would be with Marcus Rashford. Gareth Southgate should have took notice.
I think it'd be more effective for United in that state than for England.
I don't have an issue with his injuries. It's a myth. He's not really had a major injury for a long time. He did seem to have injuries following international tournaments. That's not really been the case for a minute now, so that's not an issue. The ability issue, non-issue. His productivity issue, non-issue. Or is it 0.6 goals a game, something like that? I think his goals and his assists, and not just his assists, but like there's a pre-assist factor with him as well, because he does open up defences with them balls.
So you agree with me then?
Nope. I don't agree with you. I still go for Osimhen. There's a few things that I can't quite get over with Kane, and like I was about to give you a nice shit sandwich, basically. Like tell you why it's all good, and then give you the meat. So the meat of why I don't want him. There's several factors at play here. The number one reason why I don't want him is his age. And you go, wait a minute, he's not even that old. No, he isn't that old. He's fairly young in the grand scheme of things. And when you see the likes of Zlatan going on still, he's got another 15 years or so left in him. But his age is a factor for me, because when you look at what happened with Liverpool, and you see that they've got a lot of players all in that sort of age profile, all ripening at the same time, I think it's become an issue for them. And yes, Robin van Persie was a success for us, but at a very similar age.
Yeah.
But we got one good season out of him.
I personally believe you'd get more out of Kane.
Maybe.
I know this,
the facts are we got one good season out of Robin van Persie.
A Premier League title.
It was a good season.
Yeah, okay.
It was a very good season. It was the last good season we had. Another thing that I've got a massive question mark about at the moment. So Bruno Fernandes.
Oh, we're getting his way.
Yeah, I think him and Bruno Fernandes occupy extremely similar positions. Now, you might have the argument like good players can adapt, and I would tend to agree on that. But right now, where I see Bruno creating chances from, I see Harry Kane dropping into those. And when I try and picture how Kane fits in to Manchester United, I worry that you get less Harry Kane, less Bruno, and therefore the net is less overall as a team. Like, you want to bring in players that are going to complement. Now, I don't know if you could have Bruno and Kane, and some people will be like, get rid of Bruno then, go to a more solid midfield three and have Kane given the licence to do that. Well, you're narrowing your forwards, wouldn't necessarily be against that. But that's a massive call to move someone like Bruno Fernandes, make him less effective, because he's been a ridiculous producer of goals and assists in the last few years to accommodate someone who might only be here for a couple of years.
I have a counter for that, because they might operate similar positions in same spaces, but a lot of things that United fans, including myself, have said is for a huge amount of time, Bruno has literally been the sole creator for Manchester United, and he still is. So if we're so dependent on Bruno Fernandes to operate them spaces and to create chances for us, and probably the why he seems to be so forceful sometimes. I don't think he's naturally like that, but I think he feels the pressure because outside of him, he really creates. And I think if you get Kane, you'd now have 2 players that do that. So I think what more of a good thing
do they do it in the same area?
More of a good thing isn't a bad thing, because I've also seen Bruno can do it centrally, but Bruno also does a lot of his good work in the wide half spaces as well, which Harry Kane doesn't operate. I think they could work in tandem because they're good players. The age thing that I will counter is I think the play style Harry Kane is, he doesn't rely on pace at all, never has. And he's a very intelligent footballer and he's very technical. I think he's at least got a good 4 or 5 years of being actually a quality player. He will also cost less than Osimhen.
I don't think he will cost less than Osimhen. That was my final point, was going to be that I think you sit down with Daniel Levy, I still think he costs around about the same.
Napoli are one of the hardest clubs in world football to negotiate with. They're saying 130 mil, they mean that. Do you know what I mean? They mean that because there's probably a lot of things to do with Napoli, which means they can't.
I would just say allegedly.
Allegedly. So, do you know what I mean? So they're a very serious club. So I don't know whether that it's what you'd rather. Basically, with Kane and Howson, would you rather spend 130 million pounds, which what some people are saying, on a player who's flying at the moment, but it's his first real elite season he's ever had?
I remember when people were saying about Harry Kane, by the way.
True. And he's in Serie A. Or would you do it on a less risky choice who will cost less and also allow you to probably have a little bit of budget for other areas, or a striker for depth as well? So I personally think Harry Kane might not be the sexy option to 90% of people, but I think he'd actually be the smarter one, and actually you know what you're getting, because he's done it, and he's done it for years at a rate that not many people have.
I just think that the age factor not necessarily being on him, more being on the fact that you've got quite a few, Casemiro, Varane, Bruno, De Gea, several players all coming towards the 28, 29, 30 or plus mark in the squad, isn't a positive. You see everybody ripening at the same time. You want people to be peaking at different times and at different stages in their career, in my opinion. Otherwise, you're going to have a massive job on your hands to replace all of them at the same time. And then you're going to spend 70, 80 or even 100 million plus now for Harry Kane and still have to be replacing him in 2 or 3 years' time.
The thing is, on the whole age and ripening thing, from when I last saw a stat like this, I'm pretty sure United have the 8th youngest team in the league. Look at our front three. You've got Rashford, who's probably the oldest, at 25.
Yeah.
You've got Sancho, who's 22. You've got Anthony, who's 23. You've got a lot of young players in that forward area. I don't think age in that point would actually provide a bit of a good mix. I think United aren't necessarily an old team. I think it's got a good balance, and I don't think it's more of an issue of that. I don't know if the age thing is a factor with someone like Kane, because I think he's got a lot more in the tank, and I'm mostly hinging on the costs. I think 130 million is very steep. I think Osimhen's a bit of a monster, but I think Kane would be clever. I think it would allow us to do more outside of him, and I think it'd work best for Manchester United.
If we brought in Kane and Evan Ferguson at the same time, and even maybe sent Evan Ferguson back to Brighton for a year or two, and then brought him in for the last couple of years of Harry Kane to really put some juice on him and keep Kane at the top of his game, I wouldn't have a drama with it. But when I can see, probably, obviously it's going to depend on our owners.
Yeah,
I would probably go with Osimhen as a younger option, someone that I know that I might be able to see here for a decade, and someone that I think is going to offer something completely different. Yes, he's more unproven. Yes, he's probably going to cost you more, but only 20-30% more, I think. And when you consider there's zero sell-on value with Harry Kane, you're going to have sell-on value with Osimhen, which is a factor with FFP. You are going to have players that maybe you shake up, and you can't blow 80, 90 million on Harry Kane, have it not work, and then still have to blow another 100 million on another striker in a couple of years to replace him. If United are going to go big in the transfer market, they're going to need that FFP juice. But you lot, let us know. Harry Kane or Osimhen or someone else. Let us know in the comments. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.